Okay, hello everybody and welcome to the NetSuite ABR and Statement Direct webinar. Today we'll be looking at importing a statement from a bank, matching it against the transactions that already exist within NetSuite and performing a reconciliation of some of the tools we can use to match the transactions. Following the ABR demo, we'll be looking at Statement Direct, a tool which we use to automate a lot of the processes. For instance, it takes the bank statement directly from the bank and into NetSuite, extracts the transactions from NetSuite to compare them to, and will actually automatically match the transactions based on a set of rules that we've customized. So let's begin by looking at my bank statement. This is a very simple bank statement. It's got some very simple transactions here. We've just got dates, we've got a reference for each line, and an amount. Now if I go into NetSuite, I want to import the CSV as my bank statement to compare it to the statements, to the transactions which exist within NetSuite. So I'm going to go to my ABR tab, which is part of the ABR module. And I'm going to go to Reconcile and Import Bank Statement. At the same time, I need to get the transactions from my NetSuite account into a list that I can compare my statement to. So in a new tab, I'm going to go to ABR, Reconcile, and Extract Transactions. Again, this just extracts the transactions, brings them into a list that I can compare to the imported transactions for my statement. The account that I'm using is going to be the HSBC demo account, which I've set up. And I'm going to actually reconcile everything from not just the days that it suggests, based on the historic reconciliations that I've done, but actually from the start of 2015, or at least the start of February 2015, and compare that all the way up to the about this day. So I'm going to submit this. This will extract the transactions from NetSuite, bring them onto my reconciliation. And on the other tab that I have open, I'm going to select the format for my CSV. Now what we'll notice is that the format here is different depending on which bank. What you might notice is when you download a statement from your bank, it has a lot more information. We have 5 lines of references at the top. You have 16 columns, all containing different information. And actually you can use the tools within the ABR module to set up the format so that when you import your CSV, it will automatically know what fields go where, what values mean what, which column is for the date column, which column is the date of the statement was produced, for example. So I'm going to select the file. This is the CSV file that I've got from my bank. I go to my ABR folder, I can find the bank corp statement, and I can import that. Okay. Let's go back to our extraction. So going back to the extraction, as I said earlier, if I refresh this, I can see my HSBC demo account is completely processed, 100% complete, and I'm ready to reconcile. But let me go back. Let me recap what I've done here using the slideshow that we produced. If I go to the second page, I can see the key features of the reconciliation package. We have the extract the NetSuite transactions, which brings up the NetSuite transactions into a nice tidy list that we can use to match. We can import the bank statement, that we have another list that we compare the transactions from and to. We have an Automatch transactions feature we'll look at just in a moment, an Autogen transactions feature, which allows us to generate transactions based on what's in the bank statement. For instance, you may have a direct debit, and every single time that comes through, it could be a different amount, and you know it's coming, so you set up an automatically generated transaction within NetSuite that looks at the statement, looks for that direct debit, finds out what the amount is, knows exactly who to send it to, and automatically creates a transaction that it can, within NetSuite, that can then be reconciled with the bank statement. Also, I can create a GL transaction. So, for example, I see something on my bank statement and I think, oh, there's no transaction in NetSuite for that, but it's a genuine transaction, and I can, from the bank reconciliation screen, create a journal entry that will reflect the change in balance within NetSuite. And finally, I can click to reconcile and go through all my accounts, mark them reconciled, and produce a report right at the end which allows me to see the reconciliation that has taken place. Go back to NetSuite. Earlier I mentioned on that we had a statement direct feature, and this actually, sorry, just skipping back to the presentation, that actually does a lot of these steps for me. The statement direct is one button that will extract the NetSuite transactions. It will import the bank statement directly from the bank without a CSV, just goes to the bank, uses your login credentials with the bank to extract that information, and then put them into the reconcile screen, followed by auto-matching the transactions if I ask it to do the auto-match as well. Let's navigate back to NetSuite. I'm going to go to ABR, and this time I'm going to, so just to recap what we looked at earlier. If I want to import a bank statement, I can import here, import bank statement. Again, I'm going to select the format, so HSBC CSV format. It's the one that I've prepared, which matches the format which my CSV exists in. I'm going to choose the file. So again, I go to my folder. I say this is the May HSBC statement. Select that to import and submit. And also the other side of the import process, of the setup process, is to go to ABR, reconcile and extract transactions, which I've already performed. Select the account, HSBC, demo account, and I select the date. So I can say from the first 2015 to the 31st of the 12th, 2015. Once this is complete, we'll go to the reconcile window and we'll actually see both sides that we can compare the information across from and to. There we go. So we've completed that extract. We've got 2 new transactions that have come across from NetSuite. So if I go to reconcile, go to reconcile bank statement. Choose the HSBC account that we've chosen previously and click reconcile. Another option, rather than going to my ABR extract transactions links that we did in this demo, I could go straight to reconcile and then click extract here. Once that is extracted, it would provide me with a link that would continue to the reconcile window, which we're visiting now. What you'll notice here is we have the bank account shown at the top left, the date of the statement. So I received my 30th of the 5th statement. It shows me the account balance, it shows me the outstanding balance, the amount that I've matched. I haven't matched any transactions yet. I can filter the transactions down. I can say only show me the deposits that I've made, and then I can, if I'm looking specifically at deposits on my bank statement that I want to reconcile. Now let's go further down. We can see now that I have two transactions here on the left-hand side. I have a rent payment for 860, or sorry, that's money coming in. So that's my renting out a property to a customer. They've paid 860 into the bank account, and also I have a rent expense, so I'm paying rent on the property I occupy, 550. Now on the right-hand side, so this on the left, I should mention, this is our NetSuite transactions. These are the transactions we've put into NetSuite and we've extracted into this list. So within NetSuite, I have these 2 journal entries that represent the payment for my rent and the payment I've received on my renting. Now on the right-hand side, I can see the bank statement, the transactions that I've imported with my CSV. I can see I have on the 5th of the 7th, I have a services rendered transaction, and that's increased the balance of my bank account by 860. And quite clearly, if I look on the left-hand side, same date, I can see that that is the same transaction. If we had a bank statement that contained more information, for instance, it contained another memo field, it contained specific bank details or details relating to the specific customer, then we could use that to match left and right, and we could see it's the same customer, it's the same date, it's the same amount, it's the same type of transaction. But as we've used a very simple transaction for demonstration purposes, that data isn't available to us. But I can tell you that that services rendered on the left, the 860, is exactly the same as the services rendered on my bank statement. So I click match on the right-hand side, and I click match on the left-hand side. In a scenario where I have 1 transaction in NetSuite but 2 transactions on my bank statement, if I zoom out to this, it might be a little easier to see this. Hopefully you guys watching can still see this with some clarity. if I had one transaction on the left-hand side, 860 services rendered, so that would be £430 twice coming in on my bank statement. The person who's paid for it has decided if they're going to pay two transactions, maybe it's two bank accounts paying into my one. So that I would have two transactions on the right-hand side, one on the left. I could, in theory, if this was two lines of 430, match two on the right-hand side and one on the left. But as it's a one-to-one relationship here, it's just one tick on the right, one tick on the left, and I'm going to click the match button. What we'll notice now is that transaction has actually disappeared from my list as it has on the right-hand side. If I go to my display option here, I can choose to show myself the matched transactions, the transactions that I've previously matched. If I want to unmatch these, I've made a mistake, I've selected the wrong one. I can check them both and click unmatch. It won't allow me to match transactions that don't equal the same amount when you sum both sides. Also, we'll notice we've got this ID here. Now, what we'll see in a moment is that as I match transactions, a new ID appears on every line. So if I match this 860 to that 860, my next line I match 500 to a 500 on the right-hand side. My 860s will both have this ID 33. My 500s will both have a new ID. So you can actually see, even though they're all matched in the same table, which transactions are matched to which, even when you've already assigned them as matched. I'm going to go back in my display drop-down. I'm going to go back to my unmatched transactions. What I'm going to do now is click on this auto match feature. Now, what I won't demonstrate, but it's very easy to set up, is setting up a auto match template. Now, what this does, it looks at certain values on my transactions. For instance, it may look at the memo, may say, does it contain the word rent, and is the amount for negative 550? And if so, is there a rent on the left-hand side? And a value of 550. Now what we see is actually we have rent in the memo here, negative 550, and I also have a transaction for rent here and a value of 550. Now what we also might notice is actually the date of the transaction within NetSuite is the 21st of the 5th, whereas in our bank statement it's the 30th. It's actually only come out on the 30th. So depending on how we set up the rule can have a date. It can say the date should be the same, give or take 2 days, or give or take 1 day, or it has to be an exact match. So let's see if it also match. If our rule that we set up previously will actually link these two transactions together for us. So it performs the auto match. If you can imagine, we have 1,000 transactions on both sides. This would actually be a real process, but right now it's almost instant. I'm going to click here to go back to my reconciliation screen. And what we notice is actually the transaction has disappeared on the left-hand side, and that negative 550 on the right has also disappeared. Let's go to my match transactions display. And we can see that, yes, just like we expected, the rent 550 payment has matched automatically the rent payment on the right-hand side. So that's an auto match that's taken place. Let's once again go back to my unmatched transactions. Now I no longer have transactions within NetSuite that require matching, but I do have 5 transactions on the right-hand side which are in my bank statement but aren't reflected in NetSuite. And what I want to do is generate some transactions based on these that I'm expecting to come out. These are direct debits that maybe need NetSuite transactions. So what I'm going to use is the Autogenerate template, much in the same way as we set up an Automatch template, which says, does it contain this specific wording in the memo? Is it on the same date, give or take a few days? Is it for exactly the same amount? We can say we're expecting transactions within our bank statement that require a NetSuite counterpart. We know we don't have NetSuite transactions in there, so once we see them, once we click Auto Generate, we want that transaction generated within NetSuite. So what I'll do now is I'll click on the Auto Generate button. And depending on the templates that we've got set up, we'll see 1 or 2 or maybe more transactions are generated based on the bank statement data. So currently it's pending. So it takes a little time for it to go through the transactions. It's complete. Let's have a look at the bank statement. Viewing display all means I can see actually all of the transactions, and what we can see here is actually none of the transactions meet any of the templates that we've created for auto generation. That's not a problem because I actually know that this, for instance, this A Jones concert is actually a transaction that we want to generate in the future. We know this is going to come in every single month. We know it's a bank charge, but we don't know how much it's going to be for. So what we need is for NetSuite to see the transaction in our bank statement and match it on NetSuite's side. So what I can do is click on New Template here. This takes us to the Auto Generation Template screen. And what we can see actually is that the data here reflects the rules that we have also on our Automatch template. For instance, I've said that the transaction number must exactly match the transaction that we have. The transaction amount must be 112. Now we don't actually know this. We know that it's going to be between 100 and 120, but we don't know how much it's going to be. Or sorry, between 100 and 124. I'm going to give it a transaction variance of 12. So if a transaction comes in, the statement reference is A Jones concert. We know that we want to create a transaction in NetSuite that matches what's in the bank statement. And just to go through it one more time, the transaction amount in this case was 112, but we know it's going to be between 100 and 124, so we can put 112 as the variance amount. So anything within then it will create a NetSuite transaction. Posting type journal entry. Now, some of you who know NetSuite well will know that in the future, in fact, just released, they've created a new custom GL posting transaction type, so you can create your own GL posting transactions. But currently, we're only supporting journal entries. We could use the nominal account that is going to be attributed to. So I'm just going to use the sundries account in this example. I'm going to give it priority 1. So if you imagine that you have 2 templates and you have transaction comes in that matches both templates, you don't want it to create 2 NetSuite transactions, because then you have twice the value on your left-hand side, on your NetSuite side, as you do in the bank statement. So what you actually want is just to prioritize the AutoGen templates and say this one takes precedence over that. So priority 1 takes precedence over 2, 2 over 3, and so on. And we need to give a name to our AutoGen template as well. So this is going to be my concert. It doesn't sound like a bank charge, but it is. You just have to trust me on that concert template. Why not? So we'll save that. Now what you might notice is now I've navigated away from my bank reconciliation. Surely I've lost all the data, all of the reconciliation I've already done. Not the case. If I go to my reconcile bank statement option again, I can go back to my DC demo account and continue reconciling where I left off. So the matched transactions that we have will already be matched. So if I go back to see my match transactions, we've actually half matched reconciled the statement. We've gone away, we've created a new rule, and we've decided to carry on. So we see the match transactions we matched previously. Now I've created a rule that will create a matching reference, a matching transaction for my A Jones concert. So if I click on the auto generate now, it should create a transaction on the left-hand side that it can automatically match. Click here to go back to my bank statement reconciliation. And if I go back down to my match transactions, we'll see that indeed a new transaction has been created for 112, which matches the 112 of the A Jones concert in the template we've just generated. Now, I must apologize because at this stage I realized that I didn't enter a memo. I'll tell you what the memo should be, so it's just come in blank. So when you're setting up your automatic generation templates, it's very key to make sure that you tell it what the reference is, one of the fields which was on that screen, but that would carry across the left-hand side. So now NetSuite has not only automatically matched the transactions, a transaction we put in, we've manually matched a transaction, we've automatically generated a transaction within NetSuite to match one of the lines on the bank statement. So now we've got some unmatched transactions which aren't yet reconciled. Now there's 4 of them. And actually, I know that this is a one-off. These are one-off transactions that were made, which would need to be reflected in NetSuite. However, these aren't regular occurrences. These are just one-offs that we need to reflect in NetSuite. We don't want to generate a template for them. We create a template when we auto-generate next month on our bank reconciliation, we'll end up with rules that we don't need and we don't want, or we might even automatically make transactions for things which really need to be investigated. So instead of clicking on create new template, I'm going to click create GL transaction. Now it's automatically put in the map the account. This is the HSBC bank account which we're reconciling, and we know that there was a positive 54 from the Lloyds ATM refund. We know there's a negative 16 from our O2 transaction. Now I need to choose, just like creating any other transaction, any other journal entry within NetSuite account. So I'm going to go again to my sundries account. I can see here that the difference is negative 38, so I need to credit 38 on my bank account. Zero difference. Submit. It's a balanced journal entry, and it actually allows us to match these transactions on our right to our left. So again, just to revisit, when I say right, I mean the table on my right. This is the transactions that are taken through from the bank statement which we've imported previously, and by left I mean the GL are NetSuite transactions. So now let's look at the all view. You can see that on the left hand side I have these two transactions, these journal entries, so 36, 36, and they match 36 on the right hand side, this Lloyds ATM refund and this O2 expense here. So now I've done all the reconciliation I can. I knew those two transactions were coming in. I've generated a transaction based on a rule that we've set up previously, and I've auto matched a transaction and matched one that was already existing. We've got two transactions left: a Tesco bank transaction which needs to be investigated, and what looks to be an airfare expense. Both of these need to be investigated, can't yet be reconciled. So now I've done my reconciliation, but I want to mark the reconciliation as complete. So I click the reconcile button here. And now we've done our reconciliation for the 30th of the 5th, and we have outstanding £482 on our reconciliation. So now if I go to ABR, I go to reports, and I can have a unreconciled bank statement transactions report. Oh, sorry, these are previous reports that I've generated. If we go to the closing balance report, would be a good example. I can choose my HSBC account. I can choose the statement date. So actually, I've only reconciled this account this one time. So this is our statement date that we've just done. If I had others, I could do a closing balance report for any of the previous reconciliations I've done, and I can click print. So now I can see just a summary of the report. I can see that we have outstanding payments on our bank side, 482, no outstanding receipts, and on the left hand side there was no NetSuite transactions which weren't reflected in the bank statement. If I go down here, I can actually see in these tables the outstanding payments. You can see outstanding bank transactions, no receipts, but there are two payments with the dates and the reference and the amounts here. So I have a closing balance report shows me all of the outstanding transactions which weren't reconciled. Okay, so now let's take a look at what Statement Direct can do. So we've seen a very manual process. We've imported a transaction, we've manually taken those transactions or semi-manually taken those transactions out of NetSuite, extracted them and put them on the left-hand side in our reconciliation table. So if we go to ABR, I go to Reconcile, and I go to Statement Direct Download. Now I have to admit this isn't the most exciting demonstration because it actually does a lot for us without us doing it, without us needing to press anything. This is a different account. This is going to be my Statement Direct account, named just for this demo. I can see that I have a refresh frequency. So this is how often is the NetSuite going to the bank, extracting the bank statement, and performing this automatic reconciliation and auto match and extraction. I've got it set to manual, but alternatively, I could, if I'm running this line, I can use it on a weekly schedule. So every single week, extract that data, extract the data from NetSuite, compare the two, automatically match, and then present me with just the reconcile window, which would show me any unmatched transactions which need to be dealt with before I sign off the reconciliation. For this example, we can use this manually run one on our Statement Direct account. Now here are the options for the tasks I can perform. I might not want it to do the auto match. I might just want it to do the download and do the extraction myself within NetSuite. An example for this would be, you know you have your bank statement that's come in on the 30th, but you know that there are a couple of transactions which your accounts team are still working on within NetSuite, so you only want to do the download. Now, if you imagine doing the download is essentially the same as doing the import of the bank statement CSV that we did earlier. On the other side, we could tell it to just do the extraction. We could say, we'll do the import of sales this time, but we wanted to extract the data from NetSuite, that's fine. We could do a download and extract option. So the data comes in from the bank, gets ready on the right-hand side. We've got the data coming in from NetSuite for the left-hand side, but we don't want it to do the auto match. We want to do all of the matching ourselves, absolutely all of the reconciliation we want to do manually. But in this example, I'm going to say download, extract, and auto match. I'm going to run the extraction from the 1st of 2014 all the way up to the end of December. Sorry, American dates, one mistake there. If I perform these tasks, it gets shown the process window. So it's going to tell me where it is, what it's doing. Now, if you imagine again, we've got, although in our examples we've got very small cut down data for demonstration purposes, what we can see is if we had a huge bank statement and a huge amount of transactions in NetSuite to reconcile, it would take some time. So it puts it in a queue and it works through it. So what we can see here at the top, we have, it's done the ABI Statement Direct download, so it's contacted the bank, it's got the 10 new transactions that match my criteria and pulled them into NetSuite. It's doing that, it's created the statement, so it's getting ready for the reconciliation, and it's in progress doing the ABI extraction. Okay, so if I look here, it's actually extracted 2 transactions from NetSuite. So in NetSuite, I have 2 transactions that in the time frame, I have 10 transactions on the bank statement. So there are going to be 8 unmatched transactions there. And now it's ready to reconcile. So I go back to ABI, I go to reconcile, and I click reconcile bank statement. For this example, I'm using my Statement Direct account. I don't need to extract because this is all part of the Statement Direct process. And I don't need to import bank statement because that was already soaked out from the bank. I scroll down, I can see I have all of these transactions here on the right. This is coming directly from the bank and straight into my NetSuite reconciliation window. On the left-hand side, I actually have 1 transaction here. This is only unmatched. If I display all. So I said there were 2 transactions that came through. I have this journal entry came through, this check number 2 for 615.35, and I can see actually that this has been linked automatically because I told it not just to extract and download the bank statement, I told it to also do the auto match. It's run that and it's actually created this link here. It's automatically matched that for me because it's the same date, it's the same amount, and it's got the same reference based on a rule that I've previously set up. I can also see that this 33465 amount here, at deposit 1, actually matches this deposit 1 amount here, although this was actually on so these are American data. This is the 6th of October rather than the 8th of October. I can perform that match myself. So clearly you can see that the next step would be to continue to go through this list. So I've extracted it through Statement Direct. I've extracted the transactions from NetSuite as well as the bank through Statement Direct. I've automatically matched them through Statement Direct, and now it's just a case of doing the final reconciliation, the things which can't be matched, before again going to my reconcile to finish off the reconciliation and then be able to produce my end of reconciliation report. Okay, so as always, if you want to find out more, please visit our website, www.nolanbusinesssolutions.com, or email lvosser@nolanbusinesssolutions.com if you have any inquiries. Thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate your listening.